Babylonian magic, money magic, that the so-called Jews have been using. That is correct. It is Babylonian money magic. But when you understand that they're using the blood in order to keep you from exercising the rights. So when we say rights, what do we mean by the rights? When you go to church and your preacher call a prayer line, he is issuing a right. When you go get baptized, that is a right. So any ritual with a determinative outcome as you go into it, as in circumcision is a right. So you're doing these to honor your deity. But if your deity requires the shedding of blood, as in, you notice in Old Testament Bible, you needed to shed the blood on the altar. In New Testament Bible, they don't want you, don't shed no blood on the altar, because then you can keep the negative forces of power in power just long enough to make a jump into the next reality of, or the next phase of our forward progress. So when you understand the rights and you understand the way the money magic work, so I'm gonna pull a secret out that they don't want y'all to know, but I'm gonna tell it to y'all because I don't care about their money. So it worked like this. In one of the rights, every bank in the city creates a grid. If you take your city's map and you start with the original city layout, you draw a circle around it until it's trapped within the borders. The circle had to touch the borders at least 4 corners. Now, inside of that circle, at the borders of your city, there's going to be a series of banks all over the city. You put a stick pin where those banks are. Then you'll notice what they call a geometric pattern starting to form. So it's several ways you can do it, because the old geometric pattern is the far side of the 3D, not the near side. The new 3D pattern of the more modern banks, because some have closed, they are the more forefront part of the 3D pattern. So when you're looking at for the money magic and you want to know the money magic that governs the area that you actually live in, that's the trick. That's how you trap the money. Now, when you get the geometric sigil, my chaos magician friends gonna love to know this. You use sigil magic to control and trap some of that money that flow through your neighborhood, through your area. So they don't want you to know that they using all of this sorcery and all of this backdoor crooked witchcraft. So the witchcraft was really the right stuff, so they had to villainize it so that they can take the rights from the witches, who was actually the wise women. So when they said witch, they were speaking of a woman who had grown wise with age and time. So they had to villainize her in order for the patriarchal system, which is another video, to undermine the authority of the woman in a matriarchal system. Humans are pack animals. Patriarchal systems are not conducive to a pack animal status. So they don't want us to practice the matriarchal system because it teaches us how to heal the children, how to stop predators from coming in our community, because it teaches you how to weave the community together as opposed to pinpoint the community in opposite directions. It keeps the divide and conquer at bay, and that's where the power and the force and the strength that they don't want us to tell each other about. They done messed around and let the wrong one in the asylum. I'm about to tell all their secrets. I don't like them people, because they're not going to keep oppressing these people and nobody not telling. So now, the blood is how they keep you sedated with their blood rituals, with their baby eating, when they kidnapping you and they stealing organs to make different types of souffles and soups. That's not just cooking. Soul food is not mythological. When you infuse certain energies into the cooking process, you infuse a certain magic into it. They don't want us to keep telling y'all. That's why they made all of the ones that practiced what they call voodoo over here villainized. Now watch what they did. The African never, ever, 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 ever accepted Christianity when they came over here. Even when they would use Christianity, it was to veil the African conjure, because they understood the principles at play, the nature, the flow of the wind, the cycles of weather, all of these things they became aware of that allowed them to understand that we can conceal our heritage under the veil of what they teaching, because what they don't realize is what they teaching has something in it that comes from African conjure. So when you source back the Bible to its source, you can understand why it was so easy for the African to veil his native religion, as well as some native tribes who had similar teachings, was able to veil their customs and traditions in the church, and without it upsetting those who they said they were slave owners. But there was never a slavery, which is another myth. It was a war. The war was lost. And George Washington was set up in the United States the same as Muhammad Karzai was set up in Afghanistan by Britain. And if you don't understand that part right there, you will not understand that they never freed anybody called a slave, because there was never a slave to free. The Emancipation Proclamation literally means that, okay, my captives can roam my territory, but at any given time, I can revoke that right, because that's an emancipation. That's a freedom of roaming, but it doesn't give you any rights at all that you did not already have. And he can't assert any rights under those conditions. If they had really wanted to liberate the POWs that they call slaves, what they would have issued would have been a declaration of manumission or a declaration of liberation. Manumission means that, okay, you can carry on your life according to your own recognizances and your own will. So in the money magic scheme, all of these things become relevant. If you don't know history, you can't get no real money. They keep us trapped in these mind traps. They keep us in a factory mindset where we running on a treadmill, and they give us just enough breadcrumbs, but then they start taking the breadcrumbs and they start upsetting the balance of how our lives unfold at that point. And so when you understand that they use the blood to sedate you, and then they use the rights to trap the energy that you produce as money. The rights is like the dream catchers of the Native American. It is the way to trap the money that you produce from within yourself. And if you don't know how to calculate your hourly value, then you don't even know if the company you work for is cheating you. So these are the rights that we have to learn, you know. So when we learn how to determine how the wicked can live in laps of luxury while the righteous suffer, it's because the righteous are not the ones capable within and of themselves of doing the blood rights, of shedding the type of blood and wreaking the type of misery required in order to reap the greatest capturing by conjure and method of right of the energy. So they're always at the bottom because they're trying to come up by merit alone. Merit alone, when you're fighting against adverse forces, will not raise you up. It will only raise you so far. Then you have to learn what the elites know. Okay, so now what do they know that allow them to capture your energy as money, currency, and to use it to keep you oppressed? They know this, that if they put a group of smart people in a room, there's somebody else there. that all of them smart people generated. This can be referenced through Napoleon Hill's mastermind group and the Law of Successes 16 lessons, and to help you to understand what I'm talking about, because these are the tools that they use that we don't. And this is why unity is so important, because these mastermind groups they put together are there to pick us apart, and we're not using the principle. And it's in the Bible as when two or more are gathered in my name, there also shall I be. We create another powerful entity in our unified move toward any direction. In that entity, the more unity is attached to it, the more powerful of a juggernaut it is in overthrowing the oppressive regime right now that is keeping everybody subdued. So by learning how they use the blood and the rights, then you get to learn how to protect yourself, because protection magic is in the Bible. You know, the same thing that David was doing in the Psalms, the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I lie down beside green pastures. You know, he's talking about a better day. You know, he tell me, you know, forgive me my trespass, I forgive those trespass against me. And they go through all of these protection rights. That's what these are. They're prayers. Your church call them scriptures, but the application of them becomes a right. So when the judge and in the court system is talking about your rights, RIGHTS, that's not really what they're talking about. They want to know if you are exercising your rights, would give you the power to overthrow their jurisdiction. And this is when they start labeling people a threat, because when you start to expose the faulty character and nature of their jurisdiction and how this applies to the money that they steal from you, they don't want you to know, because if you knew how much you were being stolen from by deception and fraud, you would automatically overthrow the government without nobody telling you. Nobody wouldn't even have to tell you. You would automatically change the regime without nobody telling you, because you have no concept or understanding of what's being taken from you. You have no remedy or recourse for recovery of that which you lose. Now, if you go to a store or if you place an order for something online, you fill out what they call an invoice. You are cataloging those items that you wish to purchase. That's actually the practicing of a right. It's called the selection process. It's a right. So when you think you're going to the store to make groceries, you're actually going to participate in a group right in order to circulate the energy. This group right, every time you go there, you are performing a right. So you are buying something, you're purchasing, you're becoming a consumer, because consumption is at the low end of production. Because consumption is the low end of production. In other words, when your body needs to function, you have to consume, you have to eat, devour. But then the end product of the consumption is the waste product. Now, it's the same way with the money magic that they use against us, every one of us. You have us who have no concept of anything religious. Then you have some of us that have no concept of anything what they call mystical or occult. But even in that condition, these things are being used as tools to oppress us. And by these tools of oppression being exercised, it keeps us in a perpetual state of misery. But we become accustomed to it till it's tolerable. This is the atmospheric nature of oppression. You will only tolerate it until it can't be tolerated no more, and you will try to move under that level of oppression. You will cut your budget back so you don't live the lifestyle you want, because you want to move under that level of oppression in which you become too aware that the oppression still exists. And it's just like learning basketball. You have different levels of people that can tolerate different amounts of the atmospheric pressure. Those who can tolerate the most pain are at the bottom, or else they wouldn't be there. If you can tolerate the most oppressive pain, you are at the bottom, or else you wouldn't be there. Because if you can't tolerate it, then you start exercising a different right, a right of refusal of acceptance. That's a right. If you look it up in law, it's actually a term, right of refusal of acceptance. That means you do not have to accept being oppressed. At that point, you start getting up and you start moving through the layers of stratas of oppression. You end up becoming a Jay-Z or a Kanye West or whatever the case may be. But the oppressive and the overwhelming nature of oppression, those guys did not qualify for the character and the nature of one who was willing to accept the oppression. So what do? They use their artistic talents as a right. It's a right. Now, keep in mind, there's wolves at every corner seeking to devour. So you see the story of Tupac, which is another video, Tupac Decoded, and that's gonna bust this shit wide open. But so you have these guys like Jay-Z and Kanye, they coming up and they starting to see that if they exercise their first right of self, the 5-5 realized, not the 3-5 compromised, but the 5-5 realized, then they become a target for death. Every last one of them. If you pull their FBI files, and I've done it, it's the same motherfuckers in every one of their groups. And these motherfuckers is masters of Babylonian magic, money magic. But it's not just the black artists. See, they got us thinking this divide and conquer shit that it's just the black people suffering. But watch who all names you gonna find these motherfuckers in. They in David Carradine file. Funny how he died. Why are they in his file? They in the grunge boy. They in his file. And they're using these blood rights. These are high-ranking blood rights. When you hear these people talking about the Illuminati, that's bullshit. That's not what's going on. The Illuminati, as it is described in pop culture, does not exist. The Bavarian Illuminati created by Adam Weishaupt is what they call a red herring or a mass distraction mechanism. It's bullshit too. Now, that's out of the way. Now, I did all that investigating as Jay-Z and the Illuminati. Jay-Z is a Mason, period. That's the end of the story. And he exercising his rights. And anybody don't like it have to deal with it. They have to suffer. They can't stop him. His time to shine is now. Beyonce time to shine is now. Kanye time to shine is now. No matter how quirky it looked to us, it's their time to shine because they exercising their rights. Therefore, they will be able to reap the rewards of their internal output. In other words, the money magic. By exercising their rights, they can get their money to come back to them. So I don't care what they do in their personal life because that's personal to them. For me to care about their personal life would make me have to know them personally. I don't want to know them personally unless they want to know me personally. So for me to care about their sex life, I ain't in the bedroom with them people. Whatever they do in their bedroom is what they do in their bedroom. I don't care. Long as they doing what they supposed to do by the will of the Creator, which is to exercise that right. This is their time. Nobody can stop us anymore from shining. The blood right's gonna stop. They have to stop. And the people that look like me are not gonna be the ones to make it stop. Because when the people that don't look like us get a hold of what's really going on with the money magic and how they being robbed just as bad as the people that look like me, they gonna make everybody get paid. And that's gonna be fair and equitable. And that's different because that's gonna be the exercising of another right. So if you don't understand the blood and the rights, you cannot maximize your economic rights correctly, because then you can't capture your own energy. That's all the money is. It's like putting dye in the water